The frozen moon of 9 was not a place where anyone wanted to be. The air was thin and cold. The ground was covered in ice that never melted. The mining outpost sat alone on the surface like a forgotten toy left behind by a careless child. Brought her ship down slowly through the clouds. The old cargo hauler groaned and shook as it fought against the strong winds. She had named the ship the Steady Hand many years ago, and it had earned that name 100 times over. It was not pretty. It was not fast. But it was reliable, and in the deep black of space, reliable was worth more than gold. The distress beacon had been weak, almost too weak to notice. Most haulers would have ignored it and kept flying. Fuel was expensive, time was money, but was not most haulers. She had lost her younger brother to the cold emptiness of space when she was 20 years old. His ship had sent out a distress signal too. Nobody came. She had promised herself that she would never be the person who kept flying. The landing gear touched down on the frozen ground with a heavy thump, pulled on her thick jacket and grabbed her scanner. The readout showed that the air outside was breathable but very cold. She would not freeze to death, but she would not be comfortable either. The outpost door was already open. That was the first bad sign. In a place this cold, you kept doors closed, always. She stepped inside and found herself in a long hallway lit by emergency lights. The main power was dead. The walls were covered in frost. She walked slowly, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The scanner showed no life signs. That was strange. The beacon was still sending. Someone had turned it on. The sleeping quarters were empty. Beds were unmade. Personal items were scattered on the floor. Whoever had lived here had left in a great hurry. There were food containers still sitting on tables, frozen solid now. There were clothes thrown on chairs. There was a child's drawing stuck to one wall with tape. It showed a small figure with blue fur standing next to a much larger figure with the same blue fur. The word Mama was written at the top in shaky letters. Felt something cold settle in her stomach. It was not the temperature. She kept walking. The medical bay was empty. The control room was empty. The communications hub was where the beacon was coming from. Someone had set it to automatic repeat and then left. But why? Then she heard it, a sound so small she almost missed it. A sob, tiny and muffled like someone was trying very hard not to be heard. It was coming from the cargo bay. Moved carefully. She did not want to scare whoever was hiding. The cargo bay was large and filled with metal containers of different sizes. Most of them were open and empty. The workers had taken what they could carry when they ran. The sobbing came from a container in the corner. It was sealed shut. Someone had locked it from the outside. She felt her heart grow cold with a different kind of chill. What kind of person locks a container with a crying child inside? She found the release lever and pulled it hard. The seal broke with a hiss of old air. She pulled the lid open slowly. Inside, curled into the smallest ball possible, was a child, but not a human child. The little one had fur the color of silver and blue, like moonlight on winter water. Large ears sat flat against her skull in fear. Her eyes were huge and golden, filled with tears that had frozen on her cheeks. She looked like a fox from old Earth stories, but she walked on 2 legs and had small hands with delicate fingers. I had seen them before at trading stations. They were a proud people, cold in their manners. They did not like humans much. But this was just a baby, a little girl, maybe 6 years old in human terms. The cub looked up at with those huge golden eyes. Her whole body was shaking, not just from the cold, from fear, deep, terrible fear. "Go away," the little one whispered. Her voice was rough and weak. How long had she been in there? Days, a week. Everyone leaves. Everyone always leaves. Just go away. Did not move closer. She did not reach out. She understood something very important in that moment. This child had been hurt by people who reached for her, people who made promises and then broke them. So did something different. She sat down on the cold floor of the cargo bay. She crossed her legs and leaned back against another container. Then she reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a ration bar. It was nothing special, just dried fruit and nuts pressed together, but it was food. She took a bite of it herself. She chewed slowly. Then she set another ration bar on the floor between them, not too close, just within reach if the little one wanted it. Then she did nothing. She sat there in the cold and the silence. She did not speak. She did not stare. She just existed in the same space as this frightened child. The cub watched her with wide eyes, confused, waiting for the trick, waiting for the cruelty that always came. But just sat there. She finished her ration bar. She pulled out a water bottle and took a small drink. She set another water bottle next to the food. Long minutes passed. The ship's heating system hummed in the distance. The wind howled outside. Finally, one small silver paw reached out. Tiny fingers closed around the ration bar. The cub pulled it back into her container and ate it so fast she almost choked. Said nothing, she just set out another bar. This time the cub ate slower. She drank the water in small sips. She never took her eyes off. When the food was gone, spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft and calm. My name is, I have a warm ship. There is food there and blankets. You can come with me if you want, or you can stay here. I will not force you, but I am leaving soon and this place is very cold. The cub stared at her for a long time. Trust was not something she knew, but cold and hunger were things she understood very well. Slowly, so slowly, she climbed out of the container. Her legs were weak. She could barely stand, and noticed something else. She limped. Her left leg did not work properly. The cub took one step toward, then another. Then she stopped. You will leave me too, she whispered. Everyone does. Stood up slowly. She looked down at this small, broken child, and she said the words that would change both of their lives forever. Maybe everyone else did, but I am not everyone else. She held out her hand. The cub looked at it like it was the most dangerous thing in the universe, but she was so tired, so cold, so alone. She took's hand, and they walked together out of the cold toward the waiting warmth of the steady hand. The steady hand moved through the black emptiness of space like a small fish swimming through a dark ocean. Stars burned in the distance, cold and beautiful. The journey to station would take 3 weeks, 3 weeks of quiet, 3 weeks of waiting. The cub would not leave the cargo hold. Had given her blankets, soft ones. She had given her a small mattress and a pillow. She had set up a little space heater nearby so the cub would stay warm. But every time tried to get closer, the little one pressed herself against the wall and made herself as small as possible. So did not push. She came to the cargo hold 3 times a day. She brought food, good food, warm soup, soft bread, fresh fruit from the cold storage. She set the food down at a safe distance. Then she sat on the floor and ate her own meal. She talked sometimes, not to the cub exactly, just out loud. She talked about the ship, about the stars they were passing, about a planet she had visited once where the trees grew upside down, about her mother back home who made the best noodle soup in 3 systems. The cub never answered, but she listened, could tell by the way those big golden ears turned toward her voice. On the 2nd day, the cub ate while was still in the room. That was progress. On the 3rd day, she moved a little closer to eat. On the 4th day, noticed the cub watching her work on a broken panel in the hallway outside the cargo hold. The little one stood in the doorway, half hidden but curious. This is a power regulator, said without looking up. It controls how much energy goes to the lights. It is old and tired like me. Sometimes old things need extra care. She heard a small sound, almost like a laugh, almost. On the 5th day, the cub spoke. Was sitting in the cargo hold eating dinner. The cub was in her corner with her own bowl of rice and vegetables. The silence had become comfortable by now. Then, without warning, a small voice broke it. Why are you still here? Looked up. The cub was staring at her with those huge golden eyes. There was no fear in them now, just confusion, deep, desperate confusion. "What do you mean?" asked. "You found me, you fed me, you could have left me at the station. You could have contacted someone to come get me, but you are still here. You eat with me every day. Why?" Set down her bowl, she thought carefully about her answer. This moment was important, she could feel it. "Because I do not leave people behind," she said simply. "It is not who I am." The cub's ears flattened. "I am not people. I am your kind, and my kind do not like each other. Everyone knows this." "Do you not like me?" asked. The cub opened her mouth, then closed it, her brow furrowed in thought. "I do not know," she admitted. "I do not know you." "Then how can you say we do not like each other?" smiled gently. "Maybe we should find out first, before we decide." The cub had no answer for that. She went back to eating, but something had changed. The wall between them had a crack in it now. Later that night, was sleeping in her cabin when she heard a soft sound at the door. She opened her eyes slowly. In the dim light, she could see a small figure standing at the foot of her bed. The cub was shaking, her fur was standing up, her breathing was fast and scared. "A nightmare," understood immediately. She did not say anything. She did not ask questions. She simply lifted the corner of her blanket and waited. The cub stood frozen for a long moment. The war inside her was visible on her face, trust against fear, hope against experience. Every lesson she had ever learned told her to run, to hide, to protect herself. But she was so tired of being alone. She climbed onto the bed. She did not curl up next to. Instead, she pressed herself against the wall on the far side of the mattress, making herself as small as possible. But she was there, in the same bed, under the same blanket. It was enough. The next morning woke to find the cub had moved during the night. The little one was curled against her side, one small paw gripping shirt. Her breathing was slow and peaceful. Did not move. She lay there in the soft morning light and let the cub sleep. A week passed, then two. The cub began to follow around the ship. She watched everything, how cooked, how she fixed things, how she checked the navigation computer, how she talked to the ship like it was an old friend. She still did not talk much, but she was present, she was there. Called on the communication screen one afternoon. He was an old friend, a man with hair and a rough voice who worked as an information dealer on station. His face appeared on the screen looking tired and grumpy as always. "You picked up a cub," he said after explaining the situation. "Are you crazy? Do you know how much trouble that could bring?" "She was abandoned," said quietly. The cub was listening from the doorway, knew but pretended not to notice, left in a locked container to die. His expression changed, some of the hardness left his eyes. "Ah, one of those cases." "What do you mean?" He sighed heavily. "They have traditions, old ones, cruel ones if you ask me. They believe that any cub born with defects brings shame to the family, bad luck, so they get rid of them, send them away, abandon them. The polite word they use is releasing, like the child is some kind of wild animal being set free." Felt anger burn in her chest, hot and sharp. She has a limp in her left leg, that is why they left her. Probably, a limping cannot hunt, cannot fight, cannot contribute to the pack in the ways they value, so she has no value to them. Looked toward the doorway. The cub was gone. She had heard everything. That night, the cub did not wait for a nightmare. She came to his cabin at bedtime and stood in the doorway. "You know now," she said, her voice was flat, dead. "You know what I am, a broken thing, a thrown-away thing. You will want to leave me now. Everyone does when they find out." Sat up in bed. She looked at this small child who had been taught by the universe that she was worthless, that she deserved to be abandoned, that love was not for creatures like her. "Come here," said softly. The cub hesitated. "Please." Slowly, the little one walked forward. She stopped next to the bed. Her eyes were wet, but no tears fell. She had learned long ago that crying did not help. Reached out and gently took the cub's small paw in her hand. "You are not broken," she said. "You are not worthless. You are a child who was hurt by people who should have protected you. That is their failure, not yours. Do you understand?" The cub shook her head. She did not understand. How could she? She had never been told anything different. "Then I will keep telling you," said, "every day until you believe it." She lifted the blanket. The cub climbed in without hesitation this time. She curled against side and closed her eyes. "Why do you care?" the cub whispered into the darkness. Wrapped an arm around her gently. "Because someone should, and because you deserve it, even if you do not believe that yet." Outside the window, the stars kept burning. The ship kept flying. And somewhere in the darkness, a small, wounded heart began, very slowly, to heal. They were halfway to station when the cub asked about names. It was a quiet afternoon on the ship. Was cooking in the small kitchen area. Simple food. Rice with vegetables and some protein cubes that tasted better than they looked. The cub sat on a stool nearby, watching every move made. She had started doing this often. Watching, learning, being close without being too close. "What does mean?" the cub asked suddenly. Looked up from the cooking pot. "My name." The cub nodded. Her big golden eyes were curious. This was new. She rarely asked questions. "My mother gave me that name," said. She smiled at the memory. In the old language of her family, it means something like gentle or kind. She said she hoped I would grow up to be a gentle person in a universe that is often not gentle at all. The cub thought about this. Her ears moved slightly the way they did when she was thinking hard. So names have meanings. They are not just sounds. Not always, but often, yes. Names carry hopes, wishes, dreams that parents have for their children, stirred the pot slowly. Does your name have a meaning? The cub went very still. Her ears flattened. Her tail wrapped around her body tightly. "I do not have a name," she said quietly. "My people did not give me one." Stop stirring. She turned to look at the cub fully. "What do you mean?" "Names are for real cubs, cubs that belong, cubs that are wanted." The little one's voice was flat. She had said these words to herself so many times they had lost their sting. Almost. "They called me the limping one, or the burden, or the mistake. Those were the only names I knew." Felt her heart crack, a deep, painful crack that spread through her whole chest. She had heard many sad things in her life. She had seen many cruel things. But hearing this small child speak about herself with such emptiness was something different, something worse. She turned off the cooking fire. The food could wait. She walked around the counter and knelt down in front of the cub's stool. This put them at the same height, eye to eye. "Those are not names," said firmly. "Those are insults, cruelties, lies told by people who could not see how precious you are." The cub looked away. "I am not precious. I am defective. My leg does not work right. I cannot run fast. I cannot hunt. I am useless to my pack." "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" asked. The cub shook her head. She still would not meet's eyes. "I see a child who survived. I see someone who was left alone in the cold and the dark and did not give up. I see courage. I see strength. Your leg is just a leg. It does not define you. It does not decide your worth. You are so much more than that." The cub's lower lip trembled. She was fighting hard not to cry. Crying was weakness. Crying made things worse. That was what she had always been taught. But here, on this small ship, with this strange human woman kneeling before her, the old rules did not seem to apply. "Would you like a name?" asked softly. "A real one, one that is just for you." The cub finally looked at her. Those golden eyes were wet now. Tears threatened to spill over. "You would give me a name," she whispered. "Why, I am not your cub, I am not your family." "Family is not just about blood," said. "Family is about choice, about who we decide to love and protect, and I have chosen you, if you will let me." A single tear rolled down the cub's silver fur. Then another. Then she was crying in a way she had not allowed herself to cry in a very long time. Deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere inside her that had been locked away for years. Did not hesitate. She wrapped her arms around the cub and held her close. She let her cry. She did not tell her to stop. She did not tell her to be strong. She just held her and let the storm pass. When the crying finally slowed, pulled back gently, she wiped the tears from the cub's furry cheeks with her thumbs. "I have been thinking of a name," she said, "if you want to hear it." The cub nodded. She was too tired from crying to speak. "What about?" The cub blinked. She repeated. The word felt strange on her tongue, but also warm, like a blanket, like the first sip of hot soup on a cold day. "It means spring," explained. "In the old language of my world, spring is the season that comes after winter, after the cold and the dark. It is when things that seemed dead come back to life, when flowers bloom again, when the world starts over." She touched the cub's cheek gently. "You have been in a very long winter, little one, but winter does not last forever. Spring always comes, and when it does, everything changes." The cub sat very still. She whispered the name to herself, again and once more. It felt right. It felt like something that belonged to her, something that no one could take away. "I like it," she said finally. Her voice was small but sure. "I want to be." Smiled a real smile, the kind that made her eyes crinkle at the corners. "Then you are, from this moment forward." That afternoon made a call to station. A young human doctor named appeared on the screen. He had kind eyes and a gentle voice, explained the situation, and asked if he could help them check on's health from far away. Guided her through a medical scan using the ship's basic equipment. He looked at the results carefully. "She is malnourished," he said, "but she is recovering well. The food you have been giving her is helping. In a few more weeks she should be much stronger." "What about her leg?" asked, was listening from nearby, pretending not to. His expression became sad. "The bone was broken a long time ago. Maybe when she was very young, it was never treated properly, it healed wrong. That is why she limps." "Can it be fixed?" "We can help. There are treatments that will make it better, less painful, but the limp will probably always be there to some degree." He paused. "Someone should have helped her when it first happened. It would have been easy to fix then, but no one did." Felt that hot anger burn in her chest again, but she kept her voice calm. "Then we will do what we can now." After the call ended, was quiet for a long time. She sat on the floor of the cargo hold, looking at her injured leg. "They did not fix it because they did not care," she said. "It was not a question." Sat down next to her, close but not touching. "That is true, they did not care, and that was wrong, but I care. And the doctor cares, and we are going to help you, because that is what you do for family." Looked up at her. "Is that what we are, family?" Reached out and took her small paw. "We are whatever you want us to be, but I hope we can be family. I think we would be good at it." That night did not hesitate. When bedtime came, she walked straight to his cabin and climbed into the bed like she had done it 1,000 times before. She curled up against his side and closed her eyes. "Good night, little Spring," whispered. "Good night," whispered back. Then so quietly it was almost not a word at all. "Thank you for my name, for everything." Pulled her close. "You are welcome, now sleep. Tomorrow is a new day and spring is coming." Outside the window the stars burned on. But inside the small ship, in the warm cabin, something new had begun. Something that felt very much like hope. Station was loud and bright and full of people. Had never seen so many beings in one place. Humans walked past in groups. Tall blue creatures with 4 arms carried heavy boxes. Small furry beings with long tails ran between legs and around corners. The station was alive with noise and movement and color. She gripped his hand tightly. Her ears were flat against her head. Her tail was wrapped around her leg. Everything in her body was saying danger, danger, too many strangers, too many eyes. but was there, was calm, walked through the crowd like it was nothing special, and as long as held her hand she felt safe. They had arrived that morning. The 3-week journey was over. Said they needed to stay at the station for a while. There were things to do, papers to file, rules to follow. Did not understand all of it, but she trusted to handle it. Met them at the docking bay. He was an older man with hair and a face that looked like it never smiled. But when he saw, something in his eyes softened. "So this is her," he said. His voice was rough like gravel. "The little survivor." Hid behind's leg. She did not like being looked at by strangers. Laughed. It was a short barking sound. "Smart kid, does not trust easily. That will serve her well in this universe." He helped them find a place to stay, a small set of rooms in the station's residential area. There was a bed for and a smaller bed for. There was a kitchen and a window that looked out at the stars. It was simple but clean. For 3 days everything was peaceful. Filed paperwork with the Galactic Union. She talked to officials about custody and guardianship. She spoke with doctor in person and he examined leg properly. He said he could help. It would take time and treatment, but she would be better. Maybe not perfect, but better. Began to believe that maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. Then the came. And were eating breakfast when the door chimed. Went to answer it. When she opened the door, saw who was standing there and felt her whole body go cold. A elder, tall, furred, eyes like frozen lakes. He wore the traditional robes of the council. Behind him stood 2 younger guards. Knew that face. Not personally, but the type. The ones who made decisions. The ones who decided which cubs were worthy and which ones were not. The ones who had thrown her away. She ran. Without thinking, she ran across the room and hid behind's legs, gripping her pants with both paws. "What do you want?" His voice was hard, cold, had never heard her speak like that before. The elder looked at with distaste, as if he had found something unpleasant on the bottom of his shoe. "I am elder of the High Council," he said. His voice was smooth and calm, the voice of someone used to being obeyed. "Word has reached us that you have taken possession of a child. This is a violation of protocols. We are here to reclaim her." Did not move. "Reclaim her? You mean the child your people left to die in a locked container on a frozen moon?" Elder's expression did not change. "The circumstances of her release are not your concern. She belongs with, hand her over and there will be no trouble." "Release?" Spat the word like it tasted bad. "Is that what you call abandoning a baby, leaving her to freeze and starve because her leg does not work right?" "Our traditions are not for humans to judge. The child is defective. She should have been released properly. Instead, she became a problem. We are here to correct that problem." Was shaking. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. They were going to take her. They were going to drag her back to a people who did not want her, who had never wanted her, and there was nothing she could do. Then she felt his hand on her head, gentle, warm, steady. "She is not going anywhere," said. Her voice was like steel. Elder's eyes narrowed. "You have no legal claim to this child." "I have a moral claim. I found her. I saved her. I fed her and clothed her and gave her a name. I am the one who held her when she had nightmares. Where were you? Where were any of you?" "That does not matter. Blood and species determine custody under Galactic Union law. She is. We will take her now." He stepped forward. The guard stepped forward with him. Whimpered. It was a small, scared sound. The sound of a child who had given up hope. But something happened that she did not expect. Stepped forward too, not back, forward, directly into Elder's path. "Touch her," said quietly, "and I will make sure every news service in 3 systems knows what your people do to children who are not perfect enough. I will tell them about the locked container, about the frozen moon, about the untreated broken bone. I will tell them everything." Elder stopped. For the first time, something like uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "You would not dare." Try me. The standoff lasted for several long seconds. The air was thick with tension, could barely breathe. Then a new voice spoke from down the hallway. Is there a problem here? A woman walked toward them. She was human, tall, sharp-featured. She wore a formal suit and carried a data pad. Her eyes were intelligent and fierce. She said, I am a lawyer specializing in custody cases. A friend contacted me about this situation. She looked at who stood in the background with his arms crossed. He nodded slightly. Turned to Elder. Under Galactic Union Resolution 4471, any child of any species who has been abandoned by their guardians can be claimed by any being who provides rescue and ongoing care. The abandonment was witnessed and documented. The rescue is documented. The ongoing care is documented. Your claim has no legal standing. Elder's face twisted with anger. This is not over. Actually, it is, tapped her data pad. I just filed an emergency custody injunction. A union judge will review it within the hour. Until then, you cannot touch this child. If you try, you will be arrested. The elder stared at her, then finally at who was still hiding behind's legs. You do not know what you are protecting, he said. She is defective, broken. She will bring you nothing but trouble. His voice was cold as space. She is my daughter, and you need to leave, now. For a moment was not sure she had heard correctly. Daughter, had called her daughter in front of everyone, without hesitation, without shame. Elder looked like he wanted to say more, but stepped between him and the door. Leave, she said, before I add harassment charges to your file. The elder turned and walked away. The guards followed. They did not look back. When the door closed, his legs gave out. She collapsed to the floor, shaking. Tears were streaming down her fur. She could not stop them. Knelt beside her immediately. She gathered into her arms and held her close. You are safe, she whispered. You are safe. They cannot take you. I will not let them, ever. Sobbed into shoulder. Deep, body-shaking sobs. All the fear she had been holding inside came pouring out. You fought for me, she managed between cries. You stood in front of them for me. Pulled back just enough to look into his eyes. Her own eyes were wet. Of course I did, she said. I told you, you are my family now, and I do not let anyone hurt my family. You called me your daughter. Because that is what you are, wiped the tears from his cheeks, if you want to be. Threw her arms around his neck. She held on as tight as she could. I want to be, she whispered. I want to be yours. I want to stay with you forever. Hugged her back just as tightly. Then that is exactly what will happen. And for the first time in her short, difficult life, believed that someone would actually keep their promise. 6 months had passed since the day on station. 6 months since the elder had tried to take away. 6 months since had stood between her daughter and the universe and refused to move. Everything was different now. Their new home was on a planet called Haven 3. It was a quiet world. Green hills rolled into the distance under a soft blue sky. 2 suns rose in the morning, one gold and one pale orange, painting the clouds in beautiful colors. Farmers grew crops in wide fields. Children played in the streets of small towns. It was peaceful in a way that had never known peace could feel. Had left her old life behind. No more long journeys through empty space. No more dangerous cargo runs. She worked now as a freight coordinator at the local transport hub. It was simple work. Boring, some might say, but it meant she was home every evening. It meant she could watch grow. And was growing. Not just taller, though that was happening too. She was growing in ways that could not be measured with numbers. She went to school now, a small school with children of many species. Human children, others she had never seen before. At first she had been terrified, so many people, so many chances to be judged, to be found lacking, to be rejected again. But the children on Haven 3 did not care about her limp. They cared about whether she wanted to play their games, whether she could tell good stories, whether she laughed at their jokes, and slowly, carefully, learned that not everyone was cruel. Not everyone looked at her leg and saw something broken. She made friends, a human girl named Sira who loved to draw, a small furry boy named who could climb anything. They walked to school together every morning. They sat together at lunch. They played in the fields until the suns began to set. Doctor had kept his promise too. He had recommended a specialist on Haven 3 who treated its leg. It was a long process, many visits, some pain, but now she could walk without hurting. She still limped and she always would, but it was just part of how she moved, part of who she was, not a curse, just a fact. The nightmares came less often now. Once, they had visited every night. Dark dreams of cold and hunger and locked containers. Dreams of golden eyes looking at her with disgust. Dreams of being thrown away. Now they came maybe once a week, sometimes less. And when they did, she was not alone, was always there. Warm arms, soft voice, gentle hands smoothing the fur on her head. "I am here," would say. "You are safe, it was just a dream." And would believe her, because had never lied, not once, not ever. On a bright morning in the middle of the growing season, something special was happening. Was nervous and could tell. She kept checking the time, kept looking out the window, kept adjusting things in the house that did not need adjusting. "Who is coming?" asked. She was sitting at the kitchen table eating her breakfast. Took a deep breath. "My mother, your grandmother, she is coming to meet you." Froze, her spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. Grandmother, the word felt strange, heavy. She had never had a grandmother, she had barely had a mother until. "Does she know about me?" asked quietly. "Does she know what I am, where I came from?" "She knows everything," sat down across from her daughter. "I told her the whole story, how I found you, what your people did, what we have been through." Looked down at her food. Her appetite was gone. "What if she does not like me? What if she thinks you made a mistake? What if she looks at me the way they did?" Reached across the table and took small paw. "My mother has been waiting to meet you for months. She crossed 3-star systems to get here. She did not do that to reject you. She did it because she already loves you." "How can she love me? She has never met me." "Because you are my daughter, and anything I love she loves too. That is how our family works." Wanted to believe her, she wanted to so badly, but the old fears were hard to quiet. They whispered in the back of her mind, "You are not good enough. You never will be. Everyone leaves eventually." An hour later the transport arrived. Watched through the window as an older woman stepped out. She had hair like silver silk. Her face was lined with age but bright with energy. She moved slowly, carefully, but with purpose. When I greet her, they embraced for a long time, could see them talking but she could not hear the words. Then they both turned and looked at the house, at the window, at. The older woman smiled. His heart was beating so fast she felt dizzy. She wanted to run, to hide, but she made herself stay. Had told her that brave meant doing scary things even when you were afraid, so she stood her ground. The door opened, came in first. Behind her came the grandmother. Up close she was not frightening at all. Her eyes were kind, warm like she looked at the way you might look at a sunrise, with wonder, with joy. She knelt down slowly, bringing herself to height. It could not have been easy for her old knees, but she did it anyway. "So you are the little one who stole my daughter's heart," she said. Her voice was soft and rich like honey. "Good. She needed someone to take care of. She was always too busy running around the galaxy, pretending she did not need anyone. You fixed that." Did not know what to say. She stared at this stranger who was not really a stranger at all. The grandmother tilted her head. "What is wrong, little Spring? You look worried." "I am scared," admitted. The words came out before she could stop them. "Of me." Nodded. "Of everyone, of everything. I am scared that this is not real, that I will wake up and it will all be gone, that you will see what I really am and change your mind." The grandmother was quiet for a moment. Then she did something unexpected. She laughed, not in a mean way, in a warm way, a way that made the fear shrink a little. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" she asked. Shook her head. "I see a warrior, a survivor, someone who went through things that would break most adults and is still standing, still hopping, still trying to love even though love has hurt her before." She reached out and touched cheek gently. "That takes more courage than anything I have ever done in my long life." Tears were forming in his eyes. The old tears, the scared tears, but also new tears, happy tears she did not yet know how to name. "I am not brave," she whispered. "I am just scared all the time." The grandmother smiled. "The bravest people always are. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is being afraid and choosing to keep going anyway. You have more courage than anyone I know." Could not hold back anymore. She threw herself into the grandmother's arms. The old woman caught her and held her tight. She smelled like flowers and warm bread and safety. "I am," the grandmother said softly, "and I am very, very happy to finally meet you, little." That evening the three of them sat on the porch watching the twin suns set. Orange and gold light painted the sky. The air was warm and soft. Somewhere in the distance, birds were singing their evening songs. Sat between and a blanket was wrapped around all three of them. She felt small and warm and completely at peace. "This is real, right?" she asked quietly. "This is not a dream. You will not disappear." Kissed the top of her head right between her silver ears. "This is real. We are real, and we are not going anywhere." "But what if something happens? What if you get sick? What if there is an accident? What if?" Took her small paw. "Little Spring, life does not come with promises. Things change. The universe is unpredictable, but I can tell you this. We choose to love you today, tomorrow, every day after that. Whatever comes, we face it together. That is what family means." Looked up at her mother. The word still felt new and precious every time she thought it. "You really will not leave me." His eyes were wet, but she was smiling. "I told you the day I found you in that cold, dark place. I told you I am not going anywhere. I meant it then. I mean it now. I will mean it forever. You are stuck with me, Little Spring, for the rest of our lives." Leaned against her mother's side. She closed her eyes. She let herself feel safe, really safe, completely safe. "I love you," she whispered. The words had been stuck inside her for so long. She had been too scared to say them. Too scared that saying them would make them break. But she could not keep them inside anymore. "I love you too," said, her voice thick with emotion. "More than all the stars in the sky." "And I love you both," added. "Now stop making an old woman cry and watch the sunset." They laughed together, all three of them. A grandmother, a mother, and a little girl with silver blue fur who had once been thrown away. The sun sank below the horizon. The stars came out, one by one. And on a quiet planet called Haven 3, a family sat together in the growing dark, complete and whole and exactly where they belonged. Spring had come at last. And it was beautiful.